a big hello to Nathan Emerson, Interim Chief Executive at Propertymark. Nathan, thanks so much for giving some time to Estate Agent today. When news came through that you were going to be the Interim Chief Executive, we had a lot of very good comments on our story about that. You're obviously a popular choice. Are you able to say how long you're staying or whether you might be the permanent Chief Executive?
Fair enough. Yeah, so I've stepped into the role as interim, and because I think at this moment that's exactly what it needs. It needs some stability. It needs the reputational work doing to it, and also people do need to see results. And one thing I do from my consultancy side of things and my industry background has been to go into companies, to work with them, to sort themselves in a position that they are ready for the next stage. So that's primarily what my specialism is. And the reason I like to keep that focus short term is if you don't have an initial short term focus, what happens is things drift. And I think one thing that I would love to see the organisation be shown as and seen as it is more responsive than some people will believe it is. And so I've deliberately made it my goal to make things happen and to work through the opportunities that Propertymark has for its members and for the industry as a whole. And obviously I will review that ongoing and take it from there, really.
Great. You'll obviously be aware that quite a lot of figures throughout the industry have been disappointed and in some cases very critical of what appears to be a lot of churn at the top of Propertymark over the last year or so. What do you say to that? What can you do to allay any fears that the organisation is in difficulty?
Yeah, so I think several things. I think firstly, I would say that actually things are not as people would often interpret. And I think people will often take snapshots and they will 2 and 2 together makes 5 and all of a sudden 5 becomes 11. So I think we have that in every organisation. There is transition, there's change, there's evolving and adapting. And I think, if I'm honest with you, I think probably what Propertymark hasn't done is explained enough about the things that it is doing, to evolve. Because we have a very strong headline brand, and probably you can see behind the NAEA brand. We have a very strong headline brand, and sometimes that strength of brand sometimes acts as an umbrella and a shield to what you're actually doing and evolving. And I think we need to communicate that wider and more proactive, really. And I think equally, as you are in a position where you look at the industry as a whole, 15% turnover is pretty normal. We're far below that as Propertymark, and so people do focus on the name that changes and the name that moves around. There are no sinisterness there. It is actually an evolving company, and I think one thing I am keen to do though is to engage more, and I am keen to keep driving more transparency out there to allay everybody's fears, and hopefully they'll then see that there's a lot more going on than the small things that they do fixate on.
Okay. Okay, great. You'll be aware, obviously, that one of the big issues at the moment within the industry has been, and for some years and probably will be in the near future, is increased regulation and increased training, qualifications, and so on. A lot of organisations would claim a stake to be involved in that. The Guild, RICS. How well equipped is NAEA, and does it wish to speak for the entire agency industry or for its members?
I think we're all involved in it as stakeholders. That's the first thing. And what I would also say is you look at a lot of RICS members, a lot of Guild members. The majority of those are also our members as well. So there is actually cross-representation from all of those parties. Are we proactively engaged in this side of things? Absolutely we are. Are we probably one of the main voices that people, or one of the main banners and brands that people look to traditionally be involved in that sector and have a long history of delivering in that sector? Absolutely we are. But it doesn't mean other people can't come into that communication, and actually I think that's quite healthy, really, Graham. Absolutely fine.
Yeah. Quite a lot of agents have expressed concerns, sympathetic concerns, but saying, can Propertymark really represent the complete width of the membership that it has at the moment, should it in fact revert to being the NAEA, to ALA, SAVA, and all the other constituent bodies that are now Propertymark? What's your view on that, and how do you see that's going to evolve in the future?
Good question. Now, let's go back 15, 20 years. 15, 20 years, you had a very different structure within our industry. You predominantly had letting agents, you predominantly had selling agents, and you had a small minority that crossed over. As we've now progressed and you look at where we are in today's model, a lot of letting agents also offer sales, or the selling agents offer lettings. And actually, people are multi-skilled. I mean, myself, I'm sales, lettings, and commercial. So people now operate in a different environment than they did traditionally. There is strength in numbers, and there is a lot of crossover in disciplines. If we look at the future, where things are now starting to go even more, auctioneering is coming into it more the modern method of auction. Most agents will offer a default through to that side of things. Commercial is becoming more and more apparent now as people are seeing there's other revenues there. So to say segregation and breakup, you're going to have the same people, members of several different organisations, and strength in numbers. And actually, cross-representation is a better thing, because I have an understanding of what would be important to a commercial agent versus a letting agent, and actually how you position yourself can actually cross all of those borders in one go. You're more dangerous when you segregate yourself down, because people then have one-sided viewpoint. It's very difficult to get the ship to go in the same direction if it's in multiple parts, really.
Right. Of course, one other trend parallel with that in the industry is consolidation between agents. We've seen a lot of mergers, takeovers, and so on in the last few months in particular, a lot more to come, as I understand. What's your view on that? And is it making it easier, if you like, for the industry to act in a collective, more regulated way by having a smaller number of agencies, or do you still think that the local traditions and different ways of doing things are valuable within agency?
I think what we're seeing at the moment is cyclical. We've seen it before. We've seen acquisitions and mergers. It's an exciting time at the moment, and the right things are in place. We've had people go through COVID, certainly a lot of business owners reviewing, do they really want to carry on? They're at a certain time in life, they're ready for change, and actually this has prevented a mechanism. For the first time ever, a lot of business owners also have more availability financing cash-wise than they would normally have in day-to-day trading. So that's also created a microclimate which has facilitated that. But like everything, when you clear an area and you merge things together, new shoots sprout out. So whilst we are seeing acquisitions and mergers happening, what we are also seeing is green shoots, and we are seeing new entities, maybe not in traditional format, maybe in the EXP type model and Keller Williams type model popping up. But equally, a lot of these people will eventually grow into bigger businesses. So it's an evolving circle, Graham, isn't it? That's what we're doing.
Well, one other big change running alongside all of these other factors in agency at the moment is the growth of PropTech. Some of the agencies and business models you spoke about rely on it a great deal. And you're probably the most PropTech savvy of all of the sort of industry leaders now, given your own personal background. How do you think that's going to develop within agency, and how is it going to change things? I mean, the old question of what are we going to be doing in 5 years' time that's different to now? How do you see that?
I think it's very exciting. I think there are a lot of technologies which have emerged over the last few years, and there are a lot more exciting things to come. And how we actually use that information to support what we do, deliver better customer service, and offer more transparency. So I think that space has a lot more to offer. But there's a word of caution there. You still have to understand that there are relationships in place. And one thing we do as an industry is we are a relationship industry, and we are there at the times where people maybe are ecstatically high, but equally, they can be in a reverse position psychologically and stress factor. So moving home is still a stressful experience. We are looking to shorten it. We are looking to make it a more pleasant experience. But there are still emotions at play there. And our job as a custodian of that is not just to sell a house and not just to let a property, it's to take people through that journey. PropTech supports us in that journey in a different format. It enables communication, but actually there is still that human element at play, and we must not lose sight of that, because actually that's when it starts to go wrong.
Great. Nathan, thank you so much for your time. You've given us a great insight into how you see things developing and how you see Propertymark going forward as well. So congratulations again on getting the job, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Thanks for talking to Estate Agent today.
Thank you, Graham. It's been a pleasure.